And welcome back to the shop. Today we are going to take a look at another KNECT set, which is the 3/8 drive flip socket set. And this is a pretty interesting set because it's got something other than the flip sockets that we've previously looked at. So this has, it's all sockets in here, and there's various adapters. There's a 3/8 ratchet in here, and we're 1/4 through 1 inch on the SAE side and 8mm through 19mm on the metric side. Back here we show a few things, kind of how the sockets are, the tools that come with it, the adapters, and we are made in Taiwan. So let's get this open and take a look. Okay, so here we go. We got this out of its packaging, and right off the bat we can see presentation is very nice. There's a few things here that I want to point out though, that everything is captured in here. Nice that it's easy to get out. You don't have to struggle to get anything out. I think everything should, the way this is made, I think everything will last pretty well. I don't think this packaging is going to get beat up real bad. I do know that this orange is kind of a dirt leach. It's really easy to get it dirty, but that's just the texture of it. The ratchet itself, it's pretty nice. It's got the locking retainer on there, which I like a lot, so if you put something on there, it doesn't fall off. I always like things that lock into place. The bigger sockets, like this 1 inch, they come out, they have a little tab that preloads and holds them in place. You have grooves. I don't know if you can see that here, but there's, the shape of the sockets is cut in everything, so when you close the lid, everything's held in place. So there's not a whole lot significantly more different than what we took a look at with the 1/4 inch set last time. In fact, it actually shares some sockets. So if we look at the 1/4 and 5/16, it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing, which is really nice because then you're standardized on something. The difference comes in when we get to 5/8 and 3/4. Now you need to use a 3/8 drive adapter, and that goes in like this, and you can have it on your ratchet like that, or you can use it on one of the other ratchets with the spline drive or a handle or whatever you want, because this is their proprietary drive system there. So the larger sockets do require that you use, so that starts with, yes, it starts with, so this is kind of unique. Maybe it's the first time out, but that 12 is really in there, and you can see the 1214 is the hex drive. Let's see if that is just, yeah, might be the first time out. So then it starts with the 13 and 15 are the 3/8 drive. Now, say you lose this piece, what do? A normal short 3/8 extension also works with these sockets, and that's something that I really like to see, because you're not stuck with Klein. This just happens to be an older Craftsman extension that I have laying around, so you're not stuck with a proprietary tool here to use your sockets. Now this may be required for the pass-through ratchet if you want to use it with these. But these sockets will work with a regular extension, which is good. Really good. So you have all of these sizes. You get up to 1 inch, you get up to 19 millimeter, which is essentially the same as your 3/4. The smaller sockets go into these spline adapters, and they go in very nicely. You can see you have a nice deep socket there. Interesting thing of note, this comes with a non-magnetic tip holder, and if you really wish to, you can use a magnetic tip holder with this, and you just would slide it in, and you'll see you have a magnet all the way at the tip. You cannot adjust it to have the magnet all the way at the forefront and take advantage of using the quarter to like hold screw gun tips or anything like that. You're not going to do that with this system. 9/16 is also the hex drive. There you go. And this holds on relatively well. It's not too bad. It's got the ball detent on it, so that's not a bad system that you're not going to be launching stuff real easy. Now this is for use with an impact gun. You also have a shorter one for use with an impact gun, just like that. And that is going to look like this on your impact gun. That's the shorter stem. It's not sticking out super far. You're basically a deep socket. It wobbles around a little bit, but it's not horrific. This is all fairly similar to what we saw in this set here last week. Now the difference is when you get to the larger sizes, and I think Klein kind of goofed up here actually, there is no easy way of driving these larger sockets with the impact gun. Now, there's definitely an argument that you might not need, or this gun might not be able to operate larger socket, you know, larger nuts and stuff like that, but this ratchet handle isn't all that long anyway. So, and you have 13 mil driven off the square. That's kind of a little goofy in my opinion. And I think Klein goofed up because they sell a tool right here that works. And what you could do with this, if you wanted your 13 mil, is you put this adapter in, and now you can use your 13 mil with your impact gun. So I think that's kind of odd that Klein didn't include that adapter, just because, you know, 1 inch might be a little ridiculous to try and run with this size impact gun, but you can do it. And if you're running nuts off with it or something like that, being able to throw this on your regular impact gun would absolutely be handy. They even have a space here where they could have put it. So I think it's just a little odd. I think I'm going to be hunting down a longer 3/8 to 1/4 hex adapter to throw in the set here, so that I have it along with me. Just because, you know, everything's impact rated, and they don't have the way of driving all of these with the impact. But other than that, I think this is a really solid set. I like that you can use it with a regular, or at least these sockets, you can use with a regular 3/8 extension. You're not stuck with proprietary Klein things. These you kind of are. They take this spline drive, and this is how the spline drive is going to look with your larger sockets. Let's go with the 9/16 again. There you go. And that's good and solid. I mean, it takes a fair amount of force to pull that off of there. So you have a nice deep socket. The ratchet does not feel overly stiff. Okay, we could actually test with our screwdriver here how many inch ounces it takes to ratchet this assembly. So we should be able to turn this, and it's pretty high. It's right around full scale of this screwdriver. So this is right around 12 inch ounces. For comparison, this is a kind of an old school Klein, likely made by SK. And this is at right around 5 to 6 inch ounces. Let's see here. Right around 6. So this is about twice as much drag as your classic ratchet. Some of that's okay. I wouldn't get too concerned with that because this is brand new. It's probably going to wear in a little. This thing has a lot of use on it, but SKs are notorious for being nice and easy. This isn't bad. It's, how many teeth is it? Let's see here. So I'm like right at 22 and a half-ish, which should be 90 tooth. So this is pretty fine tooth ratchet, which is nice. They have the on and off marked very well on there. It's got a nice texture to the handle. I feel like you're not going to slip off of it, much like the 1/4 inch we looked at last week. Fits in the kit well. Overall, I think it's great. There's not a lot of, it's just utilitarian. And like we talked about before, these tools are kind of a compromise thing. You're getting multiple sizes in a smaller package, which gets you versatility for size. You can drive conventional sockets with it. You have this regular, it is a 3/8 ratchet. It's not the pass-through. You have the ability to drive these with the pass-through ratchet if you wanted. Same with these. So you have your proprietary pass-through adapters. And here's your pass-through ratchet. You can take that and put it right on here, and now you can drive any one of these sockets with the pass-through ratchet. If you needed the extension, you could use the pass-through extension just like that. You're not going to be able to pass through anything, but it gets you out longer if you need to be longer. So overall, I think this is a really nice set. I think it covers a lot of bases. It has a lot of sizes that, you know, this set here that we looked at last week covers your up to 3/8 hardware sizes. This you can get bigger than 1/2 inch with. So it gives you a little bit of versatility. Sometimes some of these oddball sizes come into play depending on what you're doing. So I think this is really great. It gives you a longer handle. You can see the 1/4 inch versus the 3/8 handle, as you would expect. I do think it's unfortunate Klein missed the opportunity to include the one tool adapter that you would need to drive all of the sockets with your impact. But aside from that, I think they're onto something with this whole line. The 1/4 meets a specific need. If you're only working with up to 3/8 hardware, you probably don't need this set. If you're occasionally working with 1/2 inch hardware, There may be some other sets that work, because this is really the only socket you'll need. 1/2 inch heavy does get to 11/16 sometimes, but I think you understand what I'm getting at here, that you really don't need all of this if you're only really working to 3/8 hardware. If you're working up to 3/8 hardware, this is probably the route you want to go. But there is some handy stuff in here, because if you're working with lugs or bus bar or something like that, there's some stuff in here that'll get you there. And if you're in another vocation other than electrical, your hardware sizes, as you get bigger, obviously you're going to need something else, and this set may be really nice for that. I don't know, we're going to do some testing at some point. I don't know how much torque you're going to really put down with an impact gun and some of these other sockets. You know, if you're trying to run something like this on 3/8 hardware, I think you're probably going to start to see some torque loss. You do have an advantage with rotational mass with the larger socket, but in this instance, the further you get out, I think you're going to see this twisting and you're going to have torque loss. Now, you might not have as bad torque loss if you went with, say, something like this that gets you a little closer to the anvil, but I still think this 1/4 inch drive versus a conventional Ugga-Dugga 3/8 anvil conventional 9/16 deep socket, I don't think this is going to get, I think you're going to have some torque loss. And trying to think of ways that we can test that, and I think we'll look into that in future, because I think it's an interesting question. As far as tightening torque, if I'm guessing, I think we're going to have about the same, because rotational mass pooling, you don't have that hitting for the loss to happen. But we'll see if we can test that as well. And naturally, everything else is backwards compatible with, if you have the multi-tool nut driver, you can take any one of these tips and put it in here, and you have a deep 9/16 nut driver. Everything's backwards compatible with the rest of the system, which I think is really neat, because you could take this in the impact gun if you wanted. You could take this 9/16 if you wanted a shallow and drive it with this ratchet. Everything works with everything, so I'm hoping they stick with this system, because everything is designed very well to work with itself. These are just a deep socket size. Now, I've mentioned before that it's kind of unfortunate that there's no 11/32, which a deep 11/32 in the electrical industry would be very handy, because most light fixtures have 832 fasteners, which requires an 11/32 socket, wrench, whatever. So it's unfortunate that the 11/32 is missing from this set. Maybe that's something that we would see in future. We made no mention of it last week on this set. Don't want to drone on about it again, but it's not here either. So I do think that's a lost opportunity. A lot of light fixtures have that size, so if you are working on them, a deep 11/32 would be really handy. If you have this set, or you've worked with this set, let me know in the comments how you like it. Is there something janky about it? Is there something that you don't really like? Is there something really good about it that you think is really innovative and you know, forward thinking as far as giving versatility on the job site that you'd like to see more of? Overall, I'm pretty impressed with this line. You can see the ratchets here they're 1/4 and 3/8 ratchets. You can use them with almost anything. So if you have this in your truck or work rig, you can still use the sockets you've had all along, which I think is pretty cool. So, as always, thanks for watching, and have a great day.